Guys, welcome back to Sports Angle. Let's talk about F1 today and the various things with a special guest, Atharva Vyas. Bye, brother. Hamilton. Now, in a long time, Lewis Hamilton is not galloping away with the title. He has a challenger in Max Verstappen. Given that he is on 187 points and Lewis is on 195 points, there's only an 8-point gap. But there are so many details to talk about. What do you think has gone right for Lewis, wrong for Max, and vice versa?
Absolutely. This season has been quite a lot of a challenge that you have seen Lewis Hamilton face, as he did in the 2016 year with Nico Rosberg, where you saw both those teammates trying to edge each other over. They even got into a crash. There was a mutual animosity in that paddock, and as fans, we love to see it. But it's something that you see in F1 every now and then. You see Senna, Prost, you see Schumacher, and probably Alonso in the 2005, I think, here. And you'll see quite a lot of, from an objective point of view, you'll see Max Verstappen actually had 2 DNFs this season. One of which was because of a tire failure, and the other one was when Lewis crashed into him. Both of which one could argue that weren't his fault. But on the other hand, when we saw Lewis, he clearly had an issue with the brake balance in Azerbaijan, which caused him to lose points, essentially give up that win that season, which was gifted to him on a silver platter. So I believe that this season Max has been more flawless.
So that's about, we're talking about those things. But do you think, two main things I'll touch upon. One is, do you think the Silverstone crash is going to be a key turning point in the season? That's one. Second, how do you see it's not only the battle of the drivers, even the team principals are going at each other, because they've always had this reputation of this competitive nature of theirs between Toto Wolff and with Christian Horner. So do you think those are the two pivotal and deciding factors come this drivers' championship?
Oh yeah, you'll see a lot of the animosity that we spoke about earlier, it will spill over onto the teams as well. We have seen Red Bull try to do this last year as well, when they tried to protest the dual axis steering system, and it started off from there, and it has continued where Mercedes protested Red Bull's flexi wings. They protested Red Bull's fast pit stops, which now have to be to sum up, those rule changes have to be above 2 seconds, and Red Bull had a very, very good pit crew which used to get done with Max's pits in less than 2 seconds.
So they have a world record, right?
Yep, they do multiple ones.
They have a world record. Yes.
They, in that sense, the Red Bull are gonna be suffering from post the first half of the season. So yes, you will see a lot of fierce rivalry, and that's what's new, in this turbo hybrid era. The last year that we are seeing, Mercedes has actually faced a very good challenge, this year. So let's see where that gets onto the final, the second half of the season.
So now what we're talking about is from a driver's point of view, from a strategy point of view. So we've given two verticals in justice. I think what actually goes under the radar, and usually what I feel is the unsung hero segment of this sport, is the engineering. So do you see any engineering enhancements in the car? Will you see any differences going into that particular season now?
So Mercedes did say that they're bringing their last major upgrade package to Lewis's car at Silverstone, and since then we have seen that make a difference.
Those flattering wings, the shark fin is going to be a problem.
There were internal upgrades to the engine, aerodynamics, all of that. I don't know the exact details about it, but it was we did see it. It did make a huge difference to the car. He has performed so well in Hungary. He has performed so well at Silverstone, and you'll see that it might just help him edge out, what everyone expects to be a faster car of Red Bull this season. Red Bull might not give up though. They have tried to put in each and every resource of theirs into this year. They aren't essentially giving up on the next year, because obviously they value their future as well. But they are trying their level best to get not only the best car but also the best drivers in the best time, in the best shape of their life.
Wow. So that's that about. I feel we've tried to talk about the team principles. We've tried to talk about the engineering vertical. We've even tried to even cover about how is it going to be given that in the second half of the season, Ferrari and McLaren. Now, two prominent names in the racing history, and Ferrari is not the one which comes into this midfield battle, but they are on a rebuild process. They are coming back into the scheme of things of challenging for the title, both for the constructors as well as for their drivers' championships. But right now, their main focus is on beating McLaren, and the reason is both of them are on 163 points. Yes, they both are level. Let's just break it down for Ferrari. For Ferrari, 83 points are scored by Carlos Sainz, 80 points are scored by Charles Leclerc. Whereas for McLaren, the majority of the points are scored by Lando Norris, and the other not so majority obviously scored by Daniel Ricciardo. Now I feel like the main thing is that Daniel Ricciardo has to square up to that second driver of Mercedes, of Ferrari. Sorry guys, don't kill me. Of Ferrari, and he has to pin it down. So I think there is where do you think that will be the challenge for Daniel Ricciardo to understand, because Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are so minutely close to each other in terms of quality and the way they are producing their outputs with the car. So what do you think Daniel Ricciardo has to do? Because I feel that's the missing puzzle for McLaren going into the second half of the season for their midfield battle.
Oh, absolutely. You don't really get to see Daniel Ricciardo struggling in a car as often. His days in Red Bull were amazing. He was their ideal second choice driver on the grid. They would not have had anyone. He actually beat he actually beat Sebastian Vettel in Sebastian Vettel's last year at Red Bull, and it also goes to reflect earnings wise that he is one of the highest paid drivers on the grid for a reason, because he's a really good driver. So seeing him struggle is honestly a little strange in such a good car. So one thing on the bright side, if I were Daniel Ricciardo, I would take into the second half of the season was that he had a really good battle in Hungary with Carlos Sainz, where he held him back for a good chunk of the race, and he held position. He didn't give it up, which is really good, because Ferrari are supposed to be really dominant on a high downforce track like Hungary. So beating them at their own game, I'm really proud of him to do that. So I can really think about him, performing better in the second half.
Do we expect more points and volume from Daniel Ricciardo in the second half of the season?
Oh yes, absolutely. Because
given that now you have Spa coming up, you have Monza coming up, where he's relatively, I don't know how his record is, but those are tracks which kind of suit him, because they have sleek overtakes, and he is the one known for having those kind of overtaking abilities in these kind of
braking.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
He's the late breaking. So, I think he can, do well in those things. And we all want Daniel Ricciardo to do well because of the talent he possesses. He is such a bright and young driver. I mean, he's not young anymore on the numbers, but, this is someone, was always pitted to be that world champion always.
Oh, yeah.
And, even by the, Helmut Marko, who scouted him, always tipped him to be that world champion.
Oh, yes.
So now that's what is talking about the drivers. Now, obviously, I don't think so. Ferrari can't do any better for their drivers. I think their drivers are squeezing the best out of the car.
Absolutely.
And so let's talk about the technical aspect of it. Again, the unsung hero segment, which I like to call it, is: do you think now Ferrari and McLaren will have any engineering enhancements in their car in the second half of this season?
McLaren has already a really good car, although they are using a power unit of Mercedes from last season. You can identify that by a certain certain shape on the just behind the cockpit of the driver. They don't have that, so that does suggest that they are using a Mercedes engine from last year. That does kind of hold them back, but I do see that Lando Norris has done really well with that car as compared to how he did under a Renault power unit last year. So definitely that engine enhancement for this season has done them very well. I don't know whether or not they will bring up major upgrades that will help their car get better. They should focus probably more on trying to get Daniel Ricciardo more acclimatized, because as you said, they have faster tracks coming up, which is Spa, Monza. You see these tracks, they can definitely outperform the Ferrari. So that is there. But what is even more interesting at this point is Matteo Binotto, the team principal for Ferrari, did mention that they are bringing significant upgrades to their power unit, which should help them in such kind of circuits. So right now, that the battle is on, I would say yes.
Wow. Now, obviously, George Russell on the last weekend, of the races, he scored his first points. Very emotional moment for him. Very emotional moment for Williams, because who's been through a lot, given their struggles of the last few years, and so the financial struggles, and getting the likes of their drivers who had to pitch in money for their seats. So, do we see him at Mercedes next season?
I think yes, this is finally his chance to shine. I have, like, from what I have read, the Mercedes boss Toto Wolff speaking in the media, I do believe that he will be at Mercedes next year. He holds the talent for being a perfect partner to Lewis, to push those Red Bulls to their brink. He definitely has it in him. I have the utmost respect for Valtteri Bottas as well. He has done as good of a job as anyone else would have in that car. He's also a brilliant driver, but George Russell does deserve that seat at this moment. He's just trying to get a lot more out of his Williams car this year, as compared to how much he did last year, or even compared to his teammate this year, which is surprising because his teammate might be on more points, but if we go for a more in-depth analysis, George Russell has the best numbers compared to a teammate.
Okay, so now just slipping quickly into a rapid fire. Gonna ask you some driver names, and you have to predict in which team they might end up next year. Lewis Hamilton,
Mercedes,
Valtteri Bottas,
Williams,
Max Verstappen,
Red Bull,
Sergio Perez,
Red Bull,
Charles Leclerc,
Ferrari,
Carlos Sainz,
Ferrari,
Sebastian Vettel,
Aston,
Lance Stroll,
Aston, now it's even leaving,
George Russell,
Mercedes.
Nicholas Latifi.
I think he'll be out of a seat next season.
Oh wow. Oh. Antonio Giovinazzi,
Alfa Romeo,
Kimi Raikkonen.
out of a seat. He might retire.
All right. And what about the likes of Pierre Gasly,
He's staying.
Yuki Tsunoda?
He's staying.
Then I don't know who else is left.
There are some names from outside of the current grid that we didn't get into. I do think Valtteri Bottas might be a good addition to Williams, although he's been linked to
Alfa Romeo.
But a lot of people are saying that if he goes to Alfa Romeo, we might see Nico Hülkenberg at Williams. So the Williams second seat, or maybe both the seats for now, might be on, because we might have drivers from F2 taking in that spot. It really depends. There's so much going into it.
Okay, so now the last part of the rapid fire. Who's going to win the Drivers' Championship?
Lewis Hamilton.
Who's going to win? Obviously, the constructors then obviously goes to Mercedes.
So
So who's going to be number 3 then? Is it going to be Ferrari or McLaren?
McLaren. I
Okay.
think from what we discussed, faster circuits are coming up. Unless McLaren have durability issues, they might not slip up as much. And Mercedes are used to tougher competition. They do hold back their best for the last, and Lewis Hamilton is used to living under pressure. So I think he might just come up better. But I would love to see Max as champion as well. It's just been such a long time seeing Lewis up there. It would be nice to see that as an F1 fan.
Okay, so I think Ferrari might finish third. That's more important to me, and I have a feeling that Max will finish as the drivers' champion. And let's see. These are contrasting opinions. So do watch this video in December, and let's just see who gets the predictions right. But yes, thank you guys for watching this. Do like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below. Who do you think is gonna win